Hello and welcome to another episode of Mining Conversation with MsTedy podcast. The podcast is proudly sponsored by Menar. And today we are joined by the chairman of Menar, Dr Mphumeleo Mkhabela. And we are going to be having a conversation about how to start a mine or get into mining in South Africa. With that being said, I would like to remind you to subscribe, share, like, and follow so that you do not miss any episodes. And just to introduce or to share a little bit about Dr. Mkhabela. He is a chairman of Menar. He's also an experienced business leader, a political economy analyst. He has multiple qualifications which include PhD in political science, an MA in international politics, and a BA in journalism honors. With that being said, I'd like to welcome you to our episode.
Thank you, MsTedy.
Yes. So today we're just going to be talking about how does one get into mining, or if they want to own a mining company. We'll just take us to that conversation.
Well, one can write a book about how to get into mining. So I can only talk in summary.
Okay.
Look, first of all, there must be a mineral that has to be mined.
Yes.
And secondly, there must be a reason why it has to be mined. And thirdly, the process of mining must allow it to be commercially viable to be mined. Meaning that money has to be made. And fourthly, there has to be a way in which you can organize different requirements of the mine for it to, first of all, to make sense,
Yes.
and for it to make business sense to embark on such an entrepreneurial activity, which is high risk, first of all, and secondly, it's technically involved. So you should be able to, as the person deciding to establish a mine, have a bigger view of all of those factors. I'm just highlighting just a few. There may be more, depending on the circumstances. So a good organizer who wants to start a mine would know the requirements: technical, human, environmental, policy-wise, what kind of policies are applicable in that specific context, the jurisdiction where you are mining, and you need to know the relevant stakeholders that you have to work with and all of that. So technical, financial, geology, all of those factors. It's a whole lot of factors to decide to make, if you want to decide to get into mining. But the basic premise is that there must be a reason why you want to mine, and it must be a mineral that's worth mining, and there must be a commercial value for that venture. And then once you have made those broad decisions, then and you are aware of all those factors, you can embark on a journey of mining. This is I'm just doing disservice to the requirements, but it's just a high-level summary.
Yeah.
We can discuss more details.
Okay, so let's say I've then identified everything that you've mentioned, the mineral area and everything. Is there any restriction in terms of eligibility? Or anyone can just say, okay, I've identified the mine, the area, and everything that you've mentioned. Now I want to go into mining.
Anyone can actually embark on a business venture like mining.
Yeah.
If you were to look at the different business leaders that have gotten involved in mining in South Africa, since the second half of the 19th century, where mining became very much commercialized, with the arrival of Europeans who actually did a lot of prospecting, and they actually injected a lot of capital mostly from London to establish mines in South Africa. So if you look at those profile of those people, they were different characters in terms of professional background, their careers, their qualifications. They were different, but they were driven by the desire to make a quick buck. Prior to that period, Africans have always been mining in South Africa. The interesting case is that of the Bavenda in the area which is Mapungubwe, areas such as Thabazimbi, where they're still mining taking place. So Africans, historians teach us, they've been mining then and even smelting iron ore in that part of the world. But with the arrival of Europeans and the fact that mining was technically well developed in Europe, they brought their know-how in South Africa and modernized it. And then they could mine on huge scale on well-funded big projects, especially after the discovery of diamonds and gold. So I want to go back to the issue, what do you need to get to mining? If you look at, for example, those old characters, if you look at Cecil John Rhodes, Cecil John Rhodes was a humanities student or a person just like me. He was not an engineer, he was not he didn't study geology or mining engineering or anything like that. But he had this huge ability to organize all those elements and put them together because he had this desire to make money. But he also had other desires that were political, which is basically to make money for imperial reasons. Other people that he worked with, like people like Bani Banato, the German Jew, were more financial people. They were financial speculators, but they were well skilled in their profession. They were engineers as well. So people come to mining with different skills. I mean, here at Menar, we have Gustavo, who's the MD of the company. He's a mechanical engineer. He didn't study mining either, but he's a mechanical engineer, but he can apply it in mining. You also have lawyers who come into mining. So you can come into mining from different angles. And other people will tell stories about how they chanced into mining through networking. They were networking, they happened to be at a conference and they met somebody. And this person interested them in mining. Some people purposefully study mining and they end up either owning a mine or working at a mine. Other people work at a mine and then later on decide that actually they can actually do it for themselves. They can actually start their own mining companies. Some people come from the regulatory field. They work for government as regulators, as policymakers in the mining space or related space, and they decide to get into mining. The CEO of Exxaro, for example, Nomasa Tema, she is a scientist. She used to work as a regulator. She used to work in the Department of Water Affairs. But later on, she became a mining entrepreneur, and she's now CEO of a mining company. So there are different angles of people wanting to get to mine. Everyone will tell you their own stories. So there is no barrier to enter mining. The only barrier to enter mining is if you are not interested, if you lack interest, or even if you're interested, but perhaps you lack the entry point. You don't know how to get there, how to start, you know. But there's a lot of material now that you can read, or conferences to attend. A lot of companies that are publicly available, you can search them, you can go to them and make inquiries. How do I start? We do get those inquiries here, people coming to want to partner with us. Some they bring projects, you know, some they want to have access to procurement opportunities, but that's how they grow. They want to do their own mining activity. So every company offers some kind of assistance to people who want to get into mining, from the big companies to the small companies. You can get into mining. It also depends what kind of mineral you are interested in. Some people are interested in diamonds. We are not interested in diamonds yet. We're interested in bulk commodities, which is your coal, manganese. We're not into chrome yet, but we'll be very much interested in getting into chrome. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm answering your question, but I'm answering the roundabout way.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And then with that being said, we know that in South Africa we've got small scale mining, medium and large. So is there any difference in procedure and requirements if one wants to start a small scale, medium or large?
There isn't a big difference, except that if you are a small scale miner, and you are a black entrepreneur, black-owned company, the government does make favorable concessions for you in terms of the regulatory approvals. It might be easy for you to get guidance from government, to get approvals when you are mining, applying for your licenses. You might also be eligible to get funding from institutions like the IDC or the PIC, the Public Investment Corporation, maybe even the NEF if it's a small scale project.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of if you're a small miner, the government issues what they call mining permits, which helps to circumvent a lot of other big regulatory hurdles if you are applying for a big scale mining project. Big scale mining projects are difficult because the licenses to get them, they take long, and the technical requirements are also complex. So to get a water license, for example, every mining project must have a water license, environmental authorization, and to get these two things, it's a hurdle. You need to consult the community where you're going to mine. You need to justify to the government that you're not going to harm the environment. And if you're going to harm the environment, you need to mitigate. You need to consider whether the harm is mitigatable, so to speak. If it's not, they may not approve it. So the licensing part is difficult for big scale projects. For small scale projects, much easier. But the danger with small scale project is that it may be too small that it may not be commercially viable to mine it. So sometimes for cost purposes, you need a sizable project that you can mine, recover your loans or costs, whatever if you have borrowed money, and settle your loans and still mine after you have paid your loans, now making more money. So a medium to bigger scale project, which is commercially viable, is not high cost to mine. Maybe it's open cast, especially open cast projects are easy to mine. So there's the pros and cons of small, medium, or big. But the other advantage of starting small is that you pay your school fees at less cost. So paying your school fees meaning you learn, and so you can then later on take on a bigger project or even bigger projects over time, instead of like maybe starting big and the next thing you fail big, and then maybe you're demoralized. So it's better if you can grow from one small mine and you can grow bigger at a later stage. But to be precise to your answer, all mines must comply with the same requirements. But if you are a small scale miner, it's easy to get regulatory approvals than if you are wanting to build a big complex mine.
Yeah.
So it may take longer to get the approvals.
Thank you. And then what is the difference between mining rights and the mining permit? How does one differentiate that? A mining rights and a mining permit?
Well, there's very little difference actually.
Yeah.
If you to mine, you need a mining right.
Okay.
To get a mining right, you need to meet all the requirements. You need to meet the environmental requirements, you meet water license requirements before you can get the mining right. This mining right is basically the last, when all said and done, and you get the right. Basically, you can start mining.
Okay.
Unlike, say, for example, if you have a prospecting right. A prospecting right means you have applied and you've been given the right to prospect in a particular area. So once you have met all the requirements, you can then apply and you get the mining right. And once you get the mining right, then you can actually start mining. But mining permits, the small scale miners, they tend to go for mining permit, which helps you. It's a quick process to get the permit. You circumvent a lot of the requirements. It's also more like it's not laborious. The process is not long, but you can't get a permit for big projects. It's usually for small scale projects, and usually it's more like a one-stop shop kind of application where everything's put together at once and they consider your application at once. Unlike, big projects where you have to go through the laboratories. Every process has got its own, whether it's water license, environmental approval, everything is split. And it may take long to get to mining permits are quicker.
Mining permits are quicker. All right, with that being said, what are the advantages and disadvantages of owning and mining?
Look, if your mine is commercially viable, you obviously will make a lot of money out of it. You add value to your own enterprise, your own sweat, and you get value out of it commercially. But you also add value to a lot of people who work at the mine. From the receptionist, when you came there was a receptionist, down there up to all sorts of different people that you meet. They all find a platform where they can actually use their skill, deploy their skill. From receptionist to mining engineer to mine planner, all sorts of professions involved in mine, to accounting people, to logistics, to hydrologists, to all kinds of people. Geohydro people get involved, consultants get involved. So you add value to a lot of people who can apply their trade, and you can use their skill, and they derive value out of that. But depending on where and how you are mining, you can also add value in the community where you are mining. So you can create jobs, you get people to be active, again, applying their skills, those who have got the skill. In instances where people don't have the skill, mines also help them to acquire skills by providing internships, providing bursaries. I'm talking about mines that have got a good conscience of being corporate, or of being responsible corporate citizens. I'm not talking about fly-by-night mining. I don't know how those ones operate. I'm not talking about someone. I'm talking about proper professional mining. So there's a lot of value that you add in communities, among workers, in society in general. But mines also pay taxes. For any government to work, to be able to do its work, whether to provide security to its citizens, to provide health, education, all of those things that require a government, whether it's finding a budget for the army, everything you can think about, government can only operate if it can be able to tax its citizens to be able to fund those type of projects for the state. So mining is a major contributor in South Africa in terms of paying taxes to the fiscus, without which we would not be able to have schools, we would not be able to have hospitals. You remember that at the height of COVID, government started what they call the social grants, the stress relief fund, whatever they call it. But basically, they give people 350. If you remember that story, how that came about was that at that time, mining was doing well. The commodity cycle was up, especially in coal mining was doing extremely well. The government had money to start that project. And the finance minister had made a mention in parliament that it was possible because of the commodity prices were high at the time. So the state was able to get more money from tax revenue from mines. And that's why they were able to start it. Without mining, maybe we would not be having the 350 grand. Even after mining, at some point, the curve went down and the cycle was down. Now government was stuck with it. They continued to maintain it. So the point is that mining is very good for taxes. If a country doesn't have mining, it has to do other things to fund. There's a lot of countries who don't have resources to mine, but they are innovative enough to make up for the lack of mining other things. So yeah, in a nutshell, you can derive a lot of value from mining. The downside of mining is really the people that don't comply. And if you don't comply with the regulations of the government, you have a situation where you see a lot of mines, people mine and they leave the area unattended to severe consequences. So government also needs to up its capacity to monitor those type of things and make sure that after mining there's proper closure, there's environmental rehabilitation, the land can be used again for other purposes. Yeah.
And then with that being said, how open is the mining industry to young entrepreneurs? Because I know there's funds that one needs to cough up before you start operating, and yeah, it's like convenience and stuff like that. So how open is that mining industry when a young person wants to get into mining?
It is open. If you look at all the people that have made it in mining, I think that you'll find very few people who entered mining in their late 50s. Most people will enter mining in their late 20s, and by the time they reach their late 40s, they're already well established in mining. So all the people that you see doing well in mining when they're old, they may be old, and then you think this industry is for old people. But check when they entered mining. They entered when they were young, and that's the time when you have a lot of energy to experiment, to actually test whether you like the industry. You have a lot of capacity to absorb new knowledge, new ways of doing things. You would even have the capacity to experiment, with what commodity you are comfortable with, where you think you want to ply your trade and that type of stuff. And remember, I'm talking about entering mining as in having a career in mining. So there's a whole lot of things you can do in mining, even if you don't own the mine. But there are people who obviously grow up to the point where they're confident enough that they think they can actually start their own mine. In other words, they are confident about their organizational abilities, that they can bring the different strengths, they can bring the technical know-how, they can bring all this other scientific know-how, even if they don't have it themselves, but the capacity to organize other people and put them into a mining venture. So some people gain that kind of confidence and then they do it. And they also can put together the skills that have got to do with marketing the products, either locally or international. They link up with the international markets, traders, and that type of stuff. So it's never too late to enter mining. All that it requires is a bit of curiosity on your side. Not a lot of money to, depending on how you enter. You enter from a humble beginnings. If you want to enter big, obviously it will require a lot of money. But I mean, if you look at the histories of all the people who started mining companies, if you read about them, you'll realize that actually anything is possible. A lot of them, they started with nothing, with a small loan there, and then they bought something which everyone was not interested in, and suddenly the commodity prices of that mineral, which no one was interested at that time, suddenly boomed, and they became big mining industry. Where you look at the story of Patrice Motsepe, for example, who ran his business from the boot of his car with a briefcase. He was a young man at the time. Actually, he comes from a legal background. He studied law. He didn't study any mining. But he happened to be in the right space at the right time when there were opportunities opening up. He was curious enough to get involved in something he didn't study. And then when he got involved, the way he is now, he's a billionaire with exposure to various commodities from coal to gold and everything. So so it's never too late to get involved, and people shouldn't feel scared. Anyone can get into mining.
All right. And then what other business opportunities are there within the mining industry?
There's mining. It's aside the actual mining itself, there's a lot of value addition professional services that are required in mining. Some companies offer engineering services. Like you can start a company that offers engineering services, offering the service to mining companies. So this company doesn't have to own a mine, but it services the mining companies, offering them environmental assessment services, helping them with their applications to get environmental approvals or water license approvals. Some companies offer human resources services or accounting services, auditing services, and all of those things. So there's a lot of those type of business opportunities. And there's people, for example, that maybe like you, who are media people, who are interested in helping mining companies communicate their messages to society. Not all mining engineers are able to do that. So everyone, the mining business is huge. There's a lot of different players playing their own different roles to actually make a mine to work. Other people are into stakeholder relations management, so they are the people responsible talking to the community stakeholders, to unions, and also to the regulators. So there's a lot of those type of things that people can do. There's also logistics. The logistics business on its own to support mining, it's huge. From trucking to railing to shipping, it's a massive industry on its own. And some people also beneficiate the minerals at the mines. Even if it's not a complete beneficiation, but you do a certain level of beneficiation before the product can go to the market, and then the end user can use it for different things. For example, we have iron ore processing in South Africa, manganese processing, coal processing. So there's a whole lot of metallurgical processes that happen with the different minerals on the mines and linked to the mine. So for the mine to sell it, you can't just dug the coal. Well, it is depending on the type of coal. Some of it you can dug it, crush it, and sell it as it is. But there's a whole lot that you need to dug and process so that it has different qualities and different specs for depending on the customer. So if you are buying the coal for a broilers, chicken broilers, they actually use coal for for some of their activities. Or the sugar mills, they also use coal for the pulp, Yosapi and them. They also use coal for their factories. Or maybe we are selling to Eskom. So the qualities are different. So what mines do, they mine, they've got these processing plants on site, and they process the coal to different specs depending on the customer. So the same applies to iron ore. So you can mine the ore and process it according to different spec and sell it to the thing. Same as manganese, you can process it to certain manganese alloys, and then you can sell it depending on your customer. So mining has a lot of value add. It's no longer the old mining as it was. Gold the same. It's no longer the same as in the past where you get a stone of pure gold or anything. It doesn't exist. So you find the ores, attached to certain rock formations. So to actually extract the pure gold, you need to process a whole lot of tonnage of what you call of burden to actually extract the real ore. So there's a lot of processing that happens before you see that neatly baked. Block. So it takes there's a lot of processing that happens. So mines, you can't mine and be viable unless there's also that added service where you can process the mineral to different specs. So all of those things they depend on mining. So if you shut down mining, you shut down all of that thing. I'm just being dramatic to just give you an idea of the kind of business that mining supports.
So I don't want to assume, though in my head I'm already so good mining is a profitable business, but I'm going to ask you because the chairman in the mining company, is mining a profitable business in 2024 and then going to the future? Do we see it being a profitable business when you get into it? Which you are going to make profits and stuff.
No, there's nothing that is guaranteed. It depends on how you run your business. Yeah. It also depends on whether the market can support your business. Market meaning whether your product can get the right price to sustain your business. Sometimes the price can be right, but you find that your mining methods are too expensive. You can't recoup your costs, and you can't even make profit because your mining expenses are too high. Sometimes your mining expenses may be too low, but only to find that the price is also extremely too low. There's a lot of factors. There's market factors, there's the way you mine, and there's also the nature of the commodity that you're mining and the value that the market attaches to that product. So there's a whole lot of things that can either make a mine profitable or loss-making mine. But in summary, it's your mining cost, it's your market for the product, and other dynamics. Sometimes the market can be right and the mining cost can be right, but sometimes politics can interfere with whether your mine is viable or not. I mean, if suddenly the government decides to nationalize all mines, obviously investors are going to pull out, and there will be no mine. But where the government allows free enterprise, allows entrepreneurs to take their own risks to put the mining, and government allows trade, and the port work, and this the logistics work, and we can take the product to the port, and we can export, and we can earn your dollars, and you run your mining cost properly, and the product, there's a demand for the product in the market, oh boom, you are in the money. So yes, you can make money, but you can also make losses. The history of mining in South Africa is full of episodes of boom and bust. So many people, if you read that history, so many people got bankrupt at some point in their mining ventures. At the same time, mining has also made people so extremely wealthy in that same period. So some people, they experience boom and bust, but they move along, they continue. The one time when they experience a bust, it doesn't take them out of business. They just continue with other ventures. And the net effect of it is that they become successful at the end. So mining has got its own ups and downs. But for as long as you see mining activities taking place, it means there's money to be made. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist.
Okay. So also, just to close off our conversation today, which was very, very interesting. I hope people who want to get into mining will listen and take Mr. Mkhabela's advice and words to get into the mining industry. What would your advice be, especially to young people, should they want to get into the mining?
Well, I think the starting point is get a skill that can get you to mining. Unlike in the olden days, now there's a lot of opportunities to actually train on something that you like. Passion on its own, yes, can carry you, but it's a harder route to learn by passion. So to make it less harder for you, get the skill. Do you want to get into mining because you love working with geological formations, you like rocks or anything like that? You can study rock engineering, or study engineering and then specialize in geology and then specialize in specific rock engineering, become a rock engineer. Are you interested in environmental issues, for example? There's a whole lot of things you can study on environmental science field on its own. It's got a variety of things you can study. Do you want to look at environment from the perspective of water? There's a whole lot of things you can study in water. From geohydro to all sorts of things that you can study. Do you want to be involved in the processing of minerals? You can study metallurgy, which is also important for mining. Are you interested in the commercial side of mining, purely on the commercial side of mining? Or you can study your BCom and perhaps with the bias towards something that can help you understand commodities. Do you want to be involved in managing people at the mine? You can study human resources and apply that skill at the mines. There's a whole lot of things you can study in mining. And in fact, in South Africa, we're lucky because we do have universities that are specialized in mining. I mean, I can think of Wits University, which was founded, actually, when it was founded as a mining university, but it developed into other things. But it was founded by the people that you can call the founders of mining in South Africa. Some of their names, if you go to Wits, you can see the buildings. You'll see the Bani Banato building. The guy was a miner. They started Wits to train people that were going to be involved in mining, but obviously it increased its scope to include the arts and other things. The University of Pretoria also has a faculty that also trains people that be interested in mining. They do have mining engineering related stuff. So there are specialized courses, but there are also general courses that you can use as an entry point into mining. If you want to deal with legal issues, I mean, mining is a highly regulated business. So there are a whole lot of regulations that apply to mining. I mean, we have not even touched upon them in this interview. You can study law, and there are specialized law degrees where you can have courses that look at mineral related law or mineral resources related law. So that could also be another way to get into mining. So yeah, so there's the field of mining is so broad that you can enter it from all sorts of angles. So yeah, young people they're actually spoiled for choice on how they want to enter mining.
So you heard it from the Mining Conversation with MsTedy podcast. You are spoiled for choice by Mr. Mkhabela. So that I'd like to thank you for joining us and having this conversation on how to get into the mining business in South Africa. Thank you so much. With that being said, I'd also like to thank my team, which is Kamohelo Malangavi, Chweni Sitache, and Musa Balo. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.